it's for us. We can depend. There our hearts can trust that we'll find unity. You and I, and many more. These three things, that's how we'll be restored. So we can rise up, move. We've got the victory. Burdens loose. These three things, higher, higher we go. Don't stop, we're too close. Free your mind, let's go. These three things.
Hey, queens and kings. This is Sharrona Reaves, and you are listening to the first episode of 2021, These Three Things podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. It's so good to be back. It's so good to be with you, queens and kings, again. I have missed you guys. I have missed weekly episodes. I've missed the weekly feedback. It's just so many things that I want to share. I felt like starting off at the beginning of the year, I wanted my voice to be the first voice of the year on These Three Things podcast, just because I wanted to set the intention with my listeners for this year. I absolutely needed the holiday break, and I hope that all of you who are listening had an opportunity to take a break as well and just spend time with your family. I've learned the older that I get, the more important it is to take a break. Like, we run ourselves in the ground for things that when we die will go right on the next day without us, without a hitch. Take a break. Let your body rest and recalibrate. Gives you an opportunity to think about some things and what your next moves may be, or assess the moves that you're currently making. So I really enjoyed my break. These three things, my sweet little pod baby is growing up. She is now on iHeartRadio and Pandora. I am so excited that she is now in more listening audiences, the voices of my guests, the feedback of and authenticity of what my guests have shared on the show is being heard in new groups, in new listening audiences. That makes me really happy because I feel like the information and the insight and the advice that we share on These Three Things podcast needs to be heard in a larger audience. And I'm excited about that. And I'm wondering, queens, did you guys make New Year's resolutions this year? And I'd be interested to know what your New Year's resolutions are. I'm now taking emails at these3thingspodcast@gmail.com. It's always been my email address, but I haven't really given it publicly or openly just because I've been kind of using it for business. But I kind of think it's a little more personal than my website. I think that I do get a lot of feedback from you guys on my website, but I've had a couple of people tell me that, I don't know, like who's looking at that when I send to your website. You guys, only me and my website developer, Brady, are able to see that. And trust me, Brady could care less. Brady's more about making sure the website looks to perfection and updating anything that I may not be able to do myself. So it's really just me. But if you're looking to share anything with me on a more personal level, which you are welcome to do, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to me on these3thingspodcast@gmail.com. For me, I didn't make any New Year's resolutions for 2021. In 20, I wrote down my 10-year resolution. I sat down weeks prior to the beginning of 2020 and thought about the next 10 years of my life and what I wanted to be doing 10 years from now, pivoting from one profession and one career into something completely different. I thought that I really needed to clearly write down my vision and make it really plain about what it was that I wanted to accomplish in the next 10 years. So for me, 2021 is a continuation of the things that I set in place and in the atmosphere in 2020. I hope that you were able to sit down and make some resolutions or some intentions or write some visions for yourself as well. It's really important to do that. And I will say for many years, people would always say, well, write down your vision, write down things that you want to accomplish. And I would just be like, it's all in my head. Like, I know what I want to accomplish. I've realized now that they were right. You do have to write it down. You've got to put it out here in the atmosphere, because then something has to happen when you put those words on paper, when you speak them, when you put them out into the world now has to begin to move in the directions of the words that you speak. I think that's so powerful when you think about how the word of God says that the power of life and death is in our tongue. It's in what we're speaking. So I hope that we're all speaking positive things. That's the vibe here on These Three Things podcast, especially where it's concerning Black women, women of color. So cheers to all of you who have set your intentions for this year, or if you already are like me, you already have your 10-year intentions and you've already written that down. So you're just in the flow of what you're trying to accomplish over whatever deadline you've set for yourself. There are some things that I definitely took away from 2020 and that weren't, I know 2020 for a lot of us was a bad year. I will tell y'all, for Tabitha Brown, if you follow Tab, which I know we all love, she is America's mom. I am so happy for that sister and the work that she has put in. 2020 was a boom, bang, bada boom year for Tabitha Brown. And I'm sure it was for a lot of people. But for a lot of other people, 2020 was a horrific year. It was a traumatic year. It was a tough year, starting with the loss of Kobe Bryant to COVID to George Floyd to Breonna Taylor to, we could just go down the list of people, Ahmaud Arbery. Like, we could just go down the list of everything that 2020 just pulled from us. But there was a positive that I gained out of 2020 that I am taking with me moving forward, and that is the freedom to be myself and the truest form of myself, no matter where I am and no matter who I'm with. I don't think that I realized for so many years of my life, I have held back. And some of you who know me will be like, that was holding back. Yeah, I was holding back. I was too afraid to be me because I thought that people would see me as a radical and think something was, I'm against white people, or, I have, just hatred in my heart. And it's not that. I'm just passionate about Black women because I know what's been done to us. I know what the intention has been for us. I know what we deal with, and I see it. And I look at just the generational things that mothers have passed down to daughters because their mothers have passed it down to them, and conversations and how we hear the women that are older than us talk and how it shapes us as Black women and creates all of these narratives that have been negative in our culture. And on the other side of that, please know that I recognize all of the positive things too that come with us. But, I'm passionate about that and I want to speak about it. It is important to me. It is deeply in my heart. So, and just not that, just things that I care about just on the political front and in the world, just in general. I'm speaking about it. I have found my voice and I have allowed my voice to just be. And I'm not worried about what anybody thinks about me or how anybody feels about me or anything. Like, I am walking in my truest, freest self, and it feels good. And if you are not walking in your truest and freest self every day, do it. Do it. Because what I'm finding is that people resonate with what's true. And when you're holding back, there's probably something that you can be giving other people that they need, but you're not because you're holding back. So 2020, I took away my freedom and my voice and to walk true and authentically as Sharrona, wherever I am and whoever I'm in the midst of. And that for me was a win in 2020. And last but not least, I'm taking away with me some new friendships from 2020 into 21. And that's some of the people that I have interviewed on my show. There have been some episodes that have really just resonated with you guys. Three of them that I can think of offhand, like all of them have done really well, but there's like three that have just really just resonated with people. One is the imposter syndrome episode with the Queens of Atlanta, with LaQuinta, Dr. Leslie, and Malika, and then our therapist, Dr. Patricia. That episode has really resonated with a lot of people. I think a lot of us have been suffering from the imposter syndrome, had no idea there was an actual name for it, or that's what we were experiencing. Tons of downloads. That episode has done really well. Mothers Against Racism episode with my good friend Dania LaForce. That episode has done really, really well. I am just so excited that so many of you wanted to hear her story, wanted to hear about the organization Mothers Against Racism. Please continue to support them. You can go on my website, these3-things.com. It will give you the information on Mothers Against Racism, all of their socials, so that you can follow ways in which you can donate to Mothers Against Racism. I think my friend Dania had an amazing story that just resonated with so many people coming from St. Lucia to the United States, just the work ethic that she was brought up with. You know, this sister has accomplished a lot. So I love the fact that that episode has resonated with so many of you. Lots and lots of downloads of that episode. And then the Kings of Atlanta, Dating Over 40, with Matthew, Chris, aka Harry, and Barry. If you guys haven't watched my Instagram channel, if you haven't watched the episodes where I've gone live with my guest, most of my guests after each episode, the Kings and I did some lives on my Instagram at These Three Things Podcast on Instagram that I think you need to go watch. Barry and I did one. Let me just tell y'all, everybody loves Barry. This is what I'm talking about when I say that authenticity and realness just shines through. Barry told his story about his mistakes, about his successes, about what he's learned, about who he is as a man, about his experiences prior with women, his expectations, and he just kept it raw and real, and people loved him because of it. I wished I had just a $5 bill for every time somebody was like, I like Barry. That Barry brother sounds cool. That's from the Queens and the Kings alike. Everybody, Barry just resonated with everybody. And yes, Barry is a cool brother. That is a king. That brother is a king. You guys loved the interview that I did with Matthew and Harry. If you haven't watched it, then you don't know. If you've listened to the episode, and you heard me say Chris. Chris's real name is Harry. Harry didn't want to go with his real name at first just because he was like, I don't really know if I want people to be all, in what I'm going to say. And then afterwards, and he listened to the episode and knew that he could trust me, that I am always going to make sure that I put my guest first in the best light possible. He was willing to come forward with his real name. Plus, all of his friends were like, who is Chris? Why is this chick calling you Chris? So, it was really cool to just do some lives with those guys. I think that Harry really expressed his truest self as well. I think he talked about what's important to him in a relationship. And I think that a lot of women may have felt a way about his gift-giving aspect. But what we need to understand is that our kings need to be able to be honest with us about how they feel and where they are. And women, queens, we got to be able to receive that and not nitpick it apart because it doesn't fit the profile of what we think a man should be. We have to learn how to accept people for who they are and respect what's real to them like we want done for us. We want people to respect what's real and what matters to us as well. So I think that Harry did a great job of sharing his perspective and his thoughts, as did Matthew. Everyone says that Matthew's really kind of quiet, and Matthew is not quiet. Matthew may be a little guarded, but he definitely is not quiet. So Dating Over 40, Kings of Atlanta, that episode is just, it's gone up. It's gone up. I have so many men have listened to that episode, and it's a good laugh. It's a good perspective. As I mentioned in the Instagram lives, the whole purpose of that episode is for us to locate where we are. Do we know the things that we want? Do we know what's important to us? Is a woman going to church or a man going to church and having a relationship with God, is that important with you? Number of children, is that important to you? Still wanting to have children, does that matter to you? Age, is it a difference? Interracial, where are you on these things? Making sure that mentally we are in a good place. Like I said, we can't be damaged all of our lives. At some point, we got to fix our stuff. Are we fixing our stuff? So I think the Kings just brought a lot to the table. I love their authenticity and how they shared their true feelings. I have some people that mentioned that they felt like the Kings held back. And, there was a lot that I had to edit. I'm going to be honest, just because, we just couldn't put all of that on the air. Now, I said I was going to let these three things be, and this is our safe space. But even in that, there was some stuff that just could not make the air, just because of my mom and my dad. I just couldn't let it. And my mom and dad listened to these episodes. I tried to convince them not to listen to the King's episode, but, my mom is going to listen if she don't do nothing else. So shout out to my mom and dad, Laboria and Sammy, 52 years married in the game. Just a little quick shout out to mom and dad. So yeah, that's another big takeaway for me in 2021. But I'm also leaving some things behind. I'm leaving behind negativity, period. I just do not have time for it. Any sisters who are not interested in growing, any sisters who are still on that, who does she think she is? Girl, you're in my rear view. And queens, they should be in your rear view too. Moving forward, Black women, we are more powerful when we unify. We have the ability to accomplish so much more together. And your accomplishment does not diminish mine. Your success does not take away an opportunity for me, because the God that I know is a big God. And just like he opened a door for you, he can open a door for her and for her and for her and for me. He's a big God. So we can encourage each other, be supportive of each other, be kind to each other, have respect for each other, show love to each other, and watch just how powerful that's going to be. And even more important than that, we start to change the trajectory of all of these young girls coming behind us. Because really, that is our responsibility. It really, truly is. We have to start thinking about what we're saying in front of our daughters. What messages are we telling our daughters? What messages were told to us? What attitudes were passed down to us unintentionally, but just through years of trauma? Things that we walk in, that we move in and we vibe in as Black women. I'm leaving all that behind if it's negative. I'm about positive. I'm about supporting my sister. That doesn't mean that every sister out here is my best friend. But if you are doing something that I believe in and that I find, that's good, I'm supporting you. But if you're out here talking trash and putting down other women for just no reason other than you want to just express your opinion, I don't even see you, because that was back there for me. So I'm leaving that behind. I'm taking with me my voice, my freedom. I'm leaving behind negativity. And I'm also excited about where these three things is going. I have already started planning for season 3. And you guys, I have people reaching out to me weekly about being on this podcast and wanting to be interviewed. I will say, for those who are listening, though, understand that These Three Things podcast is a podcast for Black women where we talk about things that happen amongst us and between us in our environments as Black women. So my podcast may not be the space for some of you who have reached out, which I respond to everyone who reaches out. I have never been one of those type of people that I'm too high to talk to you, or, you're beneath me and I don't really, I have never, regardless of what I have, what I don't have, where I've worked, I've always just tried to be an approachable person and be a voice and shine a light wherever I am, give advice if I felt like I could in anything that, or anytime that anyone would reach out to me. So, that still holds true for me. I respond to everyone and I will let you know, yeah, I think what you do is amazing. I don't think my show is the platform for it. And then I pass it on to people who I think, hey, this may be somebody you would want to interview, just because I'm about supporting. And that is my form of support. If those who reach out to me, their platform or what they do just doesn't represent what I'm trying to do on these three things, I'm going to move them forward to someone who may be a better fit. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about what's coming up in season 3. Our conversations are going to get deeper. We're adding another therapist to season 3. So I'm super excited about that. And Dr. Patricia and the new therapist, we're all going to do an episode together. And I'm not going to share too much information about that yet, just because it's going to be so good and I'm super excited about it. But before we get to season 3, we've got another half of season 2 to go. And there's fire that I have still not even released in season 2 yet. Episodes, I usually don't even talk about my episodes. Even my friends will be like, okay, so what's coming out next week? And I'll be like, oh, you gotta wait and see. I don't tell anybody what I'm doing or what episodes that I'm releasing. I may say, well, yeah, I've had a conversation with this person. I've had a conversation with that person. But I really like for my audience to know what's coming up next when I want you to know, and not anticipate or have a thought. Just come freely to the episode and listen and grow, and whatever it is for you, it is for you. So I'm excited about the rest of this season, season 2, what we have coming up, the people that I'm talking to, the information that they share. I feel like in the Black community as a whole, kings and queens, there's an entrepreneurial spirit that is happening within us. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see so many of us are about, hey, listen, we got to get it ourselves. It's nothing wrong with working for other people, especially if you're doing something that you love and you're getting paid quite well for it, working for other people. And then I think there's a group of us that you get to a point where you realize it's time for me to go my own way. And I believe in myself enough to do it. And I'm willing to align myself with the right people to learn what I don't know, to take myself and my life and my business to the next level. And I'm applauding all of us who are out here on our entrepreneurship and trying to take it to the next level. We can do it and we will do it. So kudos to all of you. At the release of this episode, it will be January the 5th, and it will be Election Day in Georgia, Senate runoff day in Georgia with Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock. So these are for 2 Senate seats that we got to have, Black folks. We got to have them. We need them for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to be able to accomplish anything that is on their agenda that will affect our community and protect our community. These seats need to be claimed by Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. And if you are listening to my voice and you are in the state of Georgia and you have not gone out and voted in this Senate runoff, it is still time today to do it. It's still time. This episode will be released at 12 noon. It is still time to get up from wherever you are and go get in line and vote. And let me explain to you why these seats matter. Because the Senate and the House of Representatives is where the legislation, aka laws, are made. And we've been dealing with Mitch McConnell blocking like he is Shaquille O'Neal in his prime. Anything that we are trying to do that could be beneficial to our community. And so us taking over and having the leadership and having the majority in the Senate is key for us. It is very key for us to be able to get some things done. it sets us up, and it sets us up in a good way, because now it gives us a leg to accomplish something and to get some momentum leading into the next presidential election. So get up and go vote, Georgia. If you're listening, please understand we need to be voting like our life depends on it. And then after this Senate runoff happens and we claim these 2 seats, remember what I said in the Black Women in Politics episode. Then we need to start paying attention to what's going on in our immediate community, getting engaged, getting involved, voting, setting up what we need to set up to make sure that people are coming out and voting for everything that's happening in the community and understanding why. And I'm really excited about some things that I'm going to be doing moving forward with that, because I can't just talk about it. I got to be about it. So I just wanted to come out, say hello, say Happy New Year to everybody, tell you that we are starting next Tuesday with a new episode and one of my amazing guests for These 3 Things podcast. Hoping that you are focused for this year, focused on your game plan, and just wishing you well, Queens and Kings. I just want to say that I love you. I thank you for listening to These 3 Things. Please reach out to me, These 3 Things podcast at gmail.com, if you want to share anything, if you have feedback, just whatever. I'm here for it. I love to hear back from you guys. Again, These 3 Things is now on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. And we'll be in a few more places in the very near future. We're working on some things, so I am excited about that. So here's to 2021. Here's to the second part of season 2, These 3 Things. Here's to you, Queens and Kings. May all blessings be upon you, and may your prayers be heard. I'll see you next week on These 3 Things.